Edmonton Oilers are back in action tonight, kicking off a 3-game roadie that will feature 3 different time zones, all against possible playoff teams. Tonight, it's the Minnesota Wild or the Minnesota Mild, if you ask Liam Horrobin, or take a look at their injury report heading into tonight down at the XL Energy Center in Minnesota. Hello, what up, and welcome to Pre-Gaming with Bordzy, brought to you by Sherwood Ford, the Giant. Pre-Gaming is also a presentation of Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION, and you yourself can get some awesome little benefits from the place that Bordzy places his bankroll. Let's check in with the chat. Austin, as always, first guy in. Let's fire up the fucking band, Bordzy. It's game day, baby. No better way to spend it than with the ON crew. Let's fire it up. Get your likes in. Lance says nothing but W's. Big orange W's, we hope. And Kiana, she feels that same sentiment. Today feels like a great day to put another big orange dub on the schedule. Also, Southpaw, this isn't the rule that I made. It's back-to-back wins on weekends, but if we do get, maybe we'll revisit this tomorrow. We got to get one dub before we get the other, and Dan, that would mean shotguns at the end of tomorrow's post-game show. You've done one before on this program. You know how to hang. Shout out to Yeah, that is true. My boy knows. We got Davin in. Philp could be everything I hoped for, but that fourth-line center is a lot of responsibility. Let's go, Oilers. We got this. Let's go, Oilers. Cup year. Hell yeah, brother. Our intern Peyton, who is in our little virtual studio. I also noticed, just threw down, I love you, Bordzy. Love you too, Peyton. Take down those timestamps. Don't take that one down. No, this evening, I'm joined by the one, the only Dan Gallant. Nation Dan, king of hockey fights, who just got a shout out on the sheet with Jeff Merrick yesterday. How are we doing, Daniel?
Well, hey, we're riding high. When Jeff Merrick allows the website to grace his lips, there's just a certain lift that everybody around the team at Hockey Fights, Peyton being one of them, gets to have. So yeah, glad to be on the show. It's been a minute. I appreciate you tucking me into the schedule on a night where I don't have a lot of other games to watch for hockeyfights.com. I'm going to be able to focus in on my Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, shout out to Peyton, intern doing double duty. He's on fight duty. He's also on pre and post duty as well. Welcome to the Thunderdome, Peyton. Welcome. Dan, you doing good though? You had a solid day today?
Well, hey, it's day one of Peyton on Hockey Fight social media, so I didn't have to be in the comments nearly as much. So it's been a wonderful day for Nation Dan.
Well, for Nation Bordzy, it's been kind of a shite day. My alternator belt on my car snapped this morning when I was driving into work. So I'm stranded here at home. Also sucks when that happens on the start of a back-to-back. Don't know if I'll get to fix it. Brutal start to the day. Also want to say, if we got any automotive guys out there in the chat, feel free. Come on down to the ON office where my car is parked and will continue to be parked until I can get that belt and put it on. Pat, if they don't help me out, I'm sorry. Producer Pat behind the scenes tonight. Pat, it might have to be you because you're our resident handyman. Dan, Pat has done a lot for you at your house before, right?
Well, yes, actually, fun fact, Pat came to my house the week before he got the job at Oilers Nation. Very confusing for us both when we walked into the office together, and I was like, I know you, and I couldn't put it together. It took about 2 weeks for us to actually figure out that he had done some work around the house from his previous gig. Or current gig, Pat? Sorry.
Side gig, maybe? Side gig as well. My boy's always working, and he's doing a great job behind the scenes this evening. Also, Calvin Pickard, Sherwood Ford, Bordzy, disappointed you didn't call him. That is, I think, going to be my next call that I'm going to do. But I don't drive a Ford, but we know them, valet service, everything they do. They'll find a way to hopefully hook me up. But enough about my car. Let's talk about the Edmonton Oilers. And before we unpack what we got going on in this game tonight, I want to take a little stroll through the rumor mill kind of going on right now. Former Edmonton Oil King Tristan Jarry got placed on waivers earlier this afternoon. He's in year 2 of a 5-year, $5.3 million deal. Sound familiar, Edmonton Oilers fans? Being put on waivers in year 2 of a 5-year deal. And I'm sure Jari is not happy. I'm sure he's probably happy with his agent after he signed that deal. But speaking of a guy that probably isn't very pleased with his agent, John Klingberg has been in the news, Daniel. I say that because he declined a $50 million extension from the Dallas Stars years ago. Gotta be feeling pretty silly about that one. I hope he fired his agent's ass after that one. But it is rumored that John Klingberg has interest in the Edmonton Oilers. Here you get a look at his stats last season with the Toronto Maple Leafs. 5 assists in only 14 games because he only played 14, undergoing bilateral hip surgery, also known as hip resurfacing surgery, I do believe. Sounds incredibly painful, and this is a rumor, you can say. Pat, we also have the one year from Darren Dreger kind of breaking down. There is 5 to 7 teams that are involved in this hunt, and Dregs used the word primary target and Edmonton Oilers in the same sentence. He said, refreshing Klingberg watch has reported 5 to 7 teams interested. Edmonton, a return to Toronto, Ottawa in the mix. Also hearing the Dallas Stars, not for $50 million. They're in the chase, Colorado maybe, but the Oilers, the primary target. So it's a weird one for me. I'm curious all of your opinions in the chat. It's weird. On one hand, the way Frank worded it today was you could call it a free addition. I'm putting in quotations. If you can get a guy like that to sign for the league minimum, and who knows, you give him a tryout, maybe conditioning stint in the AHL, bring him up for a couple games. If it doesn't work, wave his ass just like you would anybody else. But he is still only 32 years old. But I mentioned that hip resurfacing surgery. You go down the list of athletes that have had that done before, very few of them come out the other end looking like the same type of player. The most recent one, that did kind of work out was Patrick Kane, but you'd also argue not the same player he was before that one. And we looked at those stats there, Dan. Are you interested in Klingberg at that league minimum? Because in theory, we've been saying for a very long time, we're looking for that top 4 D-man right next to Darnell Nurse. We've said he would work best with a puck-moving defenseman, and that is kind of exactly who John Klingberg is. He's also a power play quarterback, and if you check the Oilers depth chart, I don't think we need a new one of those. We got our boy Evan Bouchard, even Darnell Nurse and Ekholm on PP2. So, Daniel, are you in? Are you out? Where are you at with this John Klingberg rumor to Edmonton?
Well, fans of me and follow me into the Oilers Nation radio podcast verse would know that I have been continuously one to toot the horn for the defense being the area that we make a big splash. So it seems a little bit contradictory for me to now say, well, no, I don't want us to try and find defense help like this. But it just does feel like one of those moves that is still just kind of like, I like to see them looking at their options. I do think that the organization has decided that Josh Brown is not it. Troy Stecher is often finding himself on a stretcher and is, maybe not the guy that they can count on for the grind of a playoff. So at this very moment, I am on board with a move like this to be able to come into the team and at least see what you have with him. I know that Tyler Yaremchuk on Oilers Nation Every Day was talking about that very moment being an issue for this team, because what if we see some false positives? But I mean, like at this point, the team needs to try and do something, and it's not to say that we're not having success. And so I guess that's where I'm still hesitant. They need to do something on the defense. But again, I just don't, I'm still wrestling with this move just in this moment versus this being the last ditch effort and the last thing that we do at the trade deadline, because all other options have been exercised. So yeah, you know what? Take a free flyer on something like this when the money is there. And then if it fails and flops like most believe it will, then you can go ahead and still make that big splash at the deadline.
I hate to say it, but I think I'm one of those people that thinks it would fail, but I'm totally in support of doing it because of that free addition it is. Might be a little tight with money, you might think, but you easily send Josh Brown down as $1 million. You bring Klingberg in and see what he can do. The people in the chat here, Sergeant Battle, not going to lie, if he's 1 year and under 1 million, there's basically no downside. So, like, why not? And that's kind of the theory I subscribe to. Same with Lance. If it's league min, who cares? I agree. Fighting Amish, different one. Klingberg should pay to play for the Edmonton Oilers. If it's less than 1 million, why not? Southpaw, I'd be interested to see how he defends. I'm just not sure he's the guy. And right, that's kind of what you mentioned. If this was a small swing where the Oilers are still looking to make the sizable top four addition, I'm down for it, but I don't want them to fall in love with a John Klingberg and say he's good enough and maybe not go down all other alleys that you could in order to try and find a trade. Because as we all talk, we bring it up. Ekholm, yes, was on Frank Saravalli's trade targets list, but that was around this time. So there's not always names that you got to wait for him to come up. And I don't want to pigeonhole myself in to John Klingberg as well as I can really put that. But it's a pregame show. You can hear more trade talk and signing talk on Oilers Nation every day because the Oilers, they're in action tonight, and they're red hot, brother. They dropped 2 games after the holiday break, and since then, they have now won 6 of 7. None bigger, Daniel, than Monday's game against the Los Angeles Kings. Look at them orange W's up on that schedule right now. Pretty good month so far, and it was a tough-fought 1-0 victory over the division rival Kings. Stuart Skinner, absolutely incredible in that game. Perfect. I can use the words. I believe 30 of 30 in that one. Outdueled the also pretty incredible Darcy Kemper, and the game was weird. Oh, nice. Gotta look at those numbers, people. 902 save percentage on the entire season for Stuart Skinner. 268 goals against and 2.5 shutouts so far this season, because I'm counting that other one. I don't care what you say, Pat. I also love that you've committed to keeping this asterisk on the graphic all year. Gold star to you. But the win was huge, Dan. Put them 4 points behind the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Also put them 4 points up on the LA Kings. And the boys, they're sitting pretty. Here you get a look at the Pacific Division standings. Obviously, LA has 2 games in hand over the Oilers, but the Oil have 1 game in hand over the Vegas Golden Knights, 4 points back. So a win tonight would have them 2 back of top spot in the Pacific Division. But Dan, I want to focus on this stretch that the Oilers are about to endure. As you saw on the calendar, Pat, if you want to throw it back up, it's LA on Monday. We just had Minnesota tonight. Thank God they're injured. Colorado tomorrow, Vancouver Saturday, Washington next week, and then Vancouver again. This is quite the tough stretch for the Edmonton Oilers. Just had their gauntlet in December as well. Goddamn, the Oilers are about to go through it here. Also on the road, 3 different time zones that I mentioned. Daniel, you don't get the dog days of January when you got a nice schedule stretch like this. Started positively, big 2 points over the LA Kings, but the next week and a half, every game we have here is against potential playoff teams.
Well, and I think if you look back at that Boston game as kind of just a really effortless game from the Edmonton Oilers, after that, both the Pittsburgh game and the Chicago game, you really had somewhat of a listless start from the Oilers both times, and they seemed to kind of figure it out towards the end of the game. Just didn't give themselves enough runway against the Penguins to be able to do anything there, but beat the Blackhawks. And then you had a great defensive game and a game where I believe the Edmonton Oilers played down to the LA Kings competition and did exactly what the LA Kings wanted them to do, which was they did exactly what the LA Kings challenged them to do and played at their game of defensive styled game where they did not give the LA Kings any quarter given in the zone whatsoever and were really only dangerous in their own end attacking. So yeah, wonderful effort by them for the last few games. You hope that they continue to see that through LA, and then you're heading down the road into Colorado and Vancouver. You've got Colorado who's coming around into form. They started off the year with some injury troubles and have started to just really turn it on and put those wins together. And then the Canucks, who have just been in the headlines for all the absolute wrong reasons for the last few weeks. I mean, other than Quinn Hughes getting his Hart Trophy nod from Bar Down, of course, the Oilers. This is. I think I subscribed more to the Murders Row in December as being like a real good litmus test. I think that the Oilers are just kind of now the machine is rolling and we're going to see some different pieces slide in, see where they fit in with a Noah Philp coming into the lineup and potentially replacing Derek Ryan and finding Derek Ryan's way back to Bakersfield and never coming back to this organization again. And you might see a Connor Brown slide out of the lineup as well and at some point here and make way for some other adjustments coming in, maybe even a Savoy. So yeah, this is an exciting time as an Oilers fan. You get to start to see the playoff mentality come into the play, and you got Leon Draisaitl absolutely lighting up the league and just really making everybody, especially TSN, take notice.
All right. I was going to save it for a little bit later, but because you brought it up, and I also see, did it get deleted? I don't know. Southpaw said what happened to the bar down list. If you didn't catch it the other day, they had 5 names that they would have up for the Hart Trophy: McKinnon, Kaprizov, Hellebuck. Why am I blanking on the other one? Quinn Hughes and Connor McDavid. You might be saying there's a name missing on that list, and it's one Leon Draisaitl. Absolutely crazy. They got roasted for the past 24 to 48 hours. But shout out to our boy, David Quadrelli, Quads from Canucks Army. Great guy, great writer, just solid dude overall. He's been on this show multiple times. He's a Canucks fan. Back off, everybody. You treat him well. And Quads, he did some deep diving when it comes to the Hart Trophy this year. He pulled 11 individuals from the Professional Hockey Writers Association. So 11 dudes who actually get to vote on these awards. And thank God they're voting and not bar down, because Leon Draisaitl got a clean sweep. 11 first place votes, max 55 points there. A proper list, if you ask me. And Dan, we've all kind of talked about it. We've wondered, can Dry win the MVP if Connor McDavid is on his team? He's done it before, but Connor had been dealing with injuries, and well, he's the best player on this team right now. It's not even really that close. First in goals in the NHL, even strength goals, game-winning goals, second in total points. And I placed a wager on Leon to win the MVP like 2 weeks ago at plus 450, something like that. I'm feeling pretty good about it. But Dan, shout out to those actual hockey writers who know puck, because the joke we made about bar down, tell me you're not watching the Oilers without telling me you're not watching the Oilers, because even if you check the box scores, you'd say Leon's having the better season. Daniel, thoughts on Quadrelli doing work for Oilers fans? He did it to see where Quinn Hughes would pull up in this thing, and I took it and ran with it.
Well, 2 things is first of all, yes, a shout out to Quadrelli for being respected enough to, I think, get that response, and knowing that he was going to publish that information is something that is not to be taken lightly. I also want to give a shout out to Quadrelli because I influenced one of his very first votes that he made, but I won't say how I did it. It was just wonderful that he included this young gentleman in his top 5. But anyways, yeah, I think I'm a little bit disturbed by the fact that Connor Hellebuck isn't getting as much respect as I would imagine he should be getting. Like, when you think of Winnipeg Jets, what do you think of other than Connor Hellebuck backstocking that team? He has as many shutouts this year as he has regulation losses. Like, that is pretty darn insane. Wish that I could have gotten him here years ago when I was campaigning for us to pick that carcass wide and pay all you could to get a Connor Hellebuck onto this franchise. But I digress. Yeah, I mean, mid-season Hart Trophy voting is just so typical hockey fans kind of fodder. Like, that's not how the award works. We still have another 50 game or another 25 games left to decide this thing. But yeah, it does warm the cockles of your heart when you know that the writers are at least okay, even if the kids maybe aren't.
Yeah, they know what's going on. I see some people in here, Southpaw Stick Taps for Quads, also said, I placed that bet too, Bordzy. I told you all weeks ago to place it when I did it. I pulled the odds up on this show, and we Step 2, profit. That's really all it goes. But talking about this game tonight, the boys are down in Minnesota for their third and final meeting of the season. Reminder, the Oil did drop their first meeting 5-3 back on November 21st. And the Oilers, we all know it. We've heard it. They don't have much success on the road against the Wild in recent years. 4-9 straight up at XL Energy Center since I forget what that time frame was. Do the math on your own. However, Daniel, they ended a 6-game losing streak in Minnesota when they whomped the Wild's ass back on December 12th. 7-1 was the final score in that game. It was our nation citizens, Oilers Nation Everyday Christmas party. Hell of a night. Leon had 4 points. Connor had 2. Oil had 7 different goal scorers in that game. Calvin Pickard was incredible in that one, and he's going to be in the net again tonight for the rubber match. But this Wild team is going to have a drastically different look to it this evening. They are ravaged with injuries right now. Kirill Kaprizov, their best player, I might add, will miss his 10th straight game. Brock Faber, he leads the team in ice time on the back end at 24:58 a night. He's going to miss his 4th straight. Jonas Brodin, he's second on the team in ice time with 23:13. You can bet your ass he's going to be out as well for his 4th straight. And I'm not even done yet, Dan. Captain Jared Spurgeon will also be out, 7th in a row for him, as well as the feisty forward Jacob Lauko in that forward group. And the Wild, they're 6-3 without Kirill Kaprizov. This will be his 10th straight missed game, but they were 5-1 with him until they lost their 3 big defensemen. It's been 3 games without Faber, Spurgeon, and Jonas Brodin. The Wild, they've gone 1-2 in that stretch, but it kind of tells a tale. They beat up on the lowly Sharks only by a score of 3-1, and then they got pumped by some 2 playoff teams in the Colorado Avalanche and Vegas Golden Knights. 4-1 loss to Vegas, 6-1 loss to the Colorado Avalanche, which, knock on wood, never want to count your chickens before they hatch or whatever. I think that could be a preview of what we see here tonight. I don't want to shit all over this Wild decor, but I will later on in the show when we look at it. It's a who's who of, wow, they're still in the league, or that's kind of going on right now. And Pat, if you want to show the ice time graphic that I've got for the Wild defensemen compared from all season to these last 3 games. So these are the 6 names we expect on the decor for the Wild tonight, and they have all seen a crazy increase in minutes. Middleton from 20:40 to 23:17. Chisholm, he's up nearly 4 minutes. Bogosian up 7 minutes of ice time. John Merrill up 6 minutes. Hey, there's a familiar face. Travis Dermott has gone from 8:47 to 15:34 over these last 3 games. David Juracek, these are the first 3 games he's been able to play with this Wild team. And you know, Daniel, I look at these names, I look at this ice time, I then look at a line of Connor McDavid and a line with Leon Draisaitl, and I know it's not that simple, but if I'm the Oilers forward group tonight, I am licking my chops at the matchups that you will get out there on the ice. Daniel, what are your thoughts on this beat down, injured, and less than stellar decor for the Wild tonight?
Well, I mean, it just has everything written all over it that's going to be a 0-0 tie going through 3 periods of hockey. If you know anything about Edmonton Oilers hockey, if you've experienced Edmonton Oilers hockey, we are probably going to see a goalies fucking duel tonight. Sorry, I didn't mean to drop an F word there, but I just have a funny feeling that everything that we say in this pregame show, you can just throw it out the window because who the heck knows? But yeah, I mean, on paper, that is rough looking. And I mean, you've got Oilers legend Devin Shore in this forward group still. He's been waived by this team twice this season, I think. So just sticking around is a quality apparently in Minnesota this season. Tough to see for them. And for the Oilers, I mean, I know I've seen it in the chat a few times there that like got to get a good start on this team because you give a Minnesota Wild team that 1 goal or 2 goal lead, and then all of a sudden they get a whole newfound confidence in themselves and can shut the door and absolutely frustrate the hell out of you. So just get it done early, and get it done often.
Like I said, it's not that simple. And if we've seen the theme lately for the Edmonton Oilers, they do tend to start out a little slow, especially against lesser competition. Minnesota is no lesser competition. They have one more point than the Oilers in the standings. But you look at those names that I mentioned there, all the names that are not in the lineup, the Oilers got to like their chances tonight. And the Oilers are going to have a much different looking lineup in this one, as it is the return of Noah Philp to the Oilers lineup, fourth line center this evening. He was called up from Baco, the U of A product. There you get a look at his AHL numbers, and there his NHL, as he had a 3-game stint earlier this season. So Philp expected to center the fourth line between Corey Perry and Kasperi Kapanen. I fucking love that fourth line right there. You would take the young guy, put 2 veterans around him. They are all big-bodied, crash and bang, cycle game, I think, for that fourth line. But once again, could see Philp playing 8-9 minutes a night. Who knows? But this does mean Jeff Skinner is going to miss his 3rd straight game in a row. Up in the press box with the fellow odd man out, Derek Ryan, tonight. Even more so, we got some news that Matthias Ekholm is a game time decision for this one this evening. So expect we could see some shuffling on this Oilers back end. Checking right now. Still no news on whether Ekholm's going to be in. And that's why you're here watching Pregame with Bordzy, because I'll let you know when we know. But let's start with Philp. We did get the taste earlier this season. He was sent back down to work on some things. And I think the Oilers like what they saw. 17 points, 28. He also has 3 points in his last 4 games in the AHL, and he's expected to get some reps on the PK. Tony Brar reported that one earlier today. And I don't think he's going to be asked a ton, like I mentioned. Probably single-digit minutes for the U of A product, but I'm excited to see what he does with that limited ice time. We all know the reasons why we like him. He's got the big body, strong on the puck, right-handed, good in the face-off dot, a bottom 6 player through and through from all those things that I did just describe. And Philp maybe has the potential to change some deadline plans later down the road if you know you can feel comfortable making him play the 4C instead of Derek Ryan. Daniel, what do you expect from Noah Philp tonight, and thoughts on the move in general? We can talk Jeff Skinner later on, so leave it there, but thoughts on Philp?
Yeah, shout out to my boy Jeff Skinner for his 3rd game in the press box. Yeah, I love the idea of, again, we're talking about it with the John Klingberg transaction, and you're talking about this team heading into playoff prep mode, and getting Noah Philp some more NHL time with this lineup that now has got some stuff figured out. I think that the biggest thing that we can remember from Noah Philp's early time is that this team was still kind of sputtering and still a little bit confused as to what to do. And now it wasn't as bad of a start as it was last year, but yeah, it was good to, I think, get him down to Bakersfield and have a little bit of more stability there and a little bit of time to just work on himself. Now he's up in Edmonton, and as much as I'm excited to see his physicality come in, I just think having some youthful boots back there is going to be give this team the ability to push the tempo a little bit more when the top guys aren't on the ice, which is a good way to spurn some offense on. I've been wanting to see that, and I think we've been seeing that when you see Jeff Skinner on the ice. So maybe, just maybe, you get Jeff Skinner out there with Noah Philp and a Corey Perry, and then you get some more magic going. But I digress. I'm excited to see what Noah can do tonight, and hopefully he can make himself, stick around for a little bit longer this stretch and get a couple more NHL games in there.
Just soak up everything you can next to Corey Perry on that fourth line, because the encyclopedia of information that Corey Perry must have up there. Be a sponge, Noah, and take it all in. Also, Waz is in. So keep Derek Ryan's name out of your mouth.
Okay.
Waz,
he's going to Bakersfield.
There you go. Take it out. I'm not putting Waz on blast, but he said some things about Derek Ryan earlier today that had me going, that just come out of your mouth right there? But I digress now. Let's go to our need to know information, courtesy of our friends from Wilhauk Beef Jerky, because only the finest tasting meat products earn that Wilhauk name, made from 100% pure Alberta beef. Willock is aged, seasoned, smoked, and marinated to savory perfection. They gladly fill orders of any size, and you can find their jerky, sausage, and other products exclusively out of their Leduc location. So, standings watch, we looked at them earlier. Nobody else. There's only one other game, which, Dan, we covered. Started at 4:30 earlier today. Little weird one. The Oilers game tonight also going to start later. 6:52 puck drop is expected. Maybe we'll go a little long on pregame today. We'll hang out. You guys can ask some questions. Maybe I'll just start firing off bets in Bordzy's bankroll, but expect 6:52. And like I mentioned, not many games going on. So with a win tonight, the Oilers could move 2 points back of the Vegas Golden Knights for the top spot in the Pacific. I just went through Philp in the lineup, Ekholm game time decision. We will find out a little bit later on. And then our boy, Calvin Pickard. He's going to get the start, 10-4-0 on the year, 250 goals against, 896 save percentage, but he is 6-1 in his last 7 games played and did defeat the Wild back on December 21st there, making 29 of 30 saves. On the Wild side, they have a 27-13-4 record. They have one more OT loss than the Edmonton Oilers for 1 more points. Second in the Central Division behind only the Winnipeg Jets. I mentioned the injuries: Kaprizov, Faber, Jonas Brodin, Jared Spurgeon, and Jacob Lauko. And then you got to look at these numbers on your screen. The Wild, they rank 8th in goals allowed on the season. That's their best number. Their goaltending has been spectacular, but weirdly enough, they rank 27th in shots on goals allowed. The Oilers, meanwhile, are first in the NHL on shots on goal per game. You got to like some shot props tonight. Also, Minnesota's PK, 29th in the NHL. You like power play points tonight as well, and you're missing all those names that I've mentioned. Power play points, that's what we could be chasing as well. And then that goaltender, Philip Gustafsson, been unreal this season, 18-8-3 record. Also, a 2.50 goals against average, which is tied with Calvin Pickard for 12th in the NHL. There you get a look at his numbers. Most notably, the .917 save percentage throughout the season. He's also got 3 shutouts so far. Daniel, we pumped this dude the last time we saw him, but you look at those numbers, that's the one guy that when you look at this lineup, they're missing a lot of people. Well, they still got Philip Gustafsson in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the top of that division is just dominated by goaltending throughout. You got to give credit to both the Minnesota Wild and Bill Guerin and his team for being able to put together something there in Minnesota to be able to compete in that Central Division, which I know that, again, we talked about Colorado started off the season a little bit slower. Dallas has not been, I guess they've been pretty darn good the whole year. It's surprising to me almost that Minnesota is where they are, but it is thanks to that goaltending. And you've got Marc-Andre Fleury on his swan song tour around the league, doing kissing babies and saying goodbye to every team as he leaves the building, or pranking random players as he goes as well. Yeah, I mean, this Wild team, as much as we're joking about it, and as tonight they're set up for a bit of a fall, yeah, credit to them for being where they are in that Central Division.
Yeah, they've been one of the biggest surprises, I'd say, so far this year. And remember, they still have so much money tied up to buyouts. Next year's when they kind of get relinquished from all that. So look out. They got that young talent, but super, super injured. I also see some people in here. We're going to park that Gus bus. And then Fighting Amish. Is this an It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia reference? Philadelphia, please let me know, because if so, that made me laugh, and I appreciate it very much. Let's go now to our Sherwood Ford Giant storyline this evening, brought to you by Sherwood Ford the Giant. Tired of dealership hassles? Well, Sherwood Ford in Sherwood Park is all about convenience and upfront pricing with their Giant Deal program. Get clear, no-nonsense pricing on new and used Fords online with all incentives included. Plus, enjoy the ease of mobile service, free pickup and delivery, and same-day or next-day service appointments. I will also let you know tomorrow if they will fix my alternator belts, because I'm desperate, people. I'm desperate. Also, Fighting Amish said, yes, I love that show. Great show. It's an all-time. It's an all-timer. But my storyline, it's simple. Minnesota is ravaged with these injuries. I've said it ad nauseum already. There are so many pillars of this team that are going to be out. Their best forward, their best defenseman, their best 3 defensemen that you might add. And I never, ever, ever want to overlook a team, especially a team that is in the playoffs right now. But because of all those injuries, this to me feels like a simple Oilers get the lead early, take matchups apart. If Connor McDavid is out there against some of those names on the back end, he is going to eat. He is going to feast. Don't overthink it. And I mentioned it there. The Wild allow a lot of shots against every single game. The Oilers, they pump shots at the net. So do what you've done all season long. This one on paper does seem kind of simple, but as we know, Daniel, the Oilers have a tough history down in Minnesota. What's your storyline or a key to victory that you've got tonight? My key to victory could also be the power play. But Dan, what's going on in that head of yours? Someone also asked, is that a Bret Hart hat? Yes, it is.
Can confirm the best there was, the best there is, and the best there ever will be. Bret the Hitman Hart hat. But yes, for my key tonight, I would say that it's for the Oilers to just play a good, clean game between the whistles. And what that means is don't let the Minnesota Wild drag you down into any of the scrums anymore. This when teams are typically not going to necessarily show up on the skill page, they know that they can kind of get underneath the Oilers' skin a little bit. Now, often that does tend to backfire on them when you get a pissy Leon or an angry Connor. But yeah, for the Edmonton Oilers, I think tonight is just keep it clean, keep McDavid from getting slew-footed, and just let's just get this victory out of the way, and then we'll worry about Colorado tomorrow night.
Right, it's a big one tomorrow. I saw Lance put it earlier in the chat. Great spot for Pickard here against the injured Wild. Stu, who's been on fire lately, is going to get the tough one against Colorado tomorrow. They also said one of the few men to wear pink and not give a fuck. This is salmon. This is salmon colored. Technically, I'm also kind of wearing a little bit of pink right now. So
hey,
shout out to
eat
us,
your
Dan.
heart out, Mark Zuckerberg, me and my toxic masculinity over here. Hockey fights on the chest and pink on the head.
How did I know you'd get a Mark Zuckerberg chip in there at some point? I knew it. I thought I might. And we can go now to the Edmonton Oilers lineup. All we can browse at is what Tony Broer put out earlier today from the morning skate. Still sitting here waiting for some news about Mattias Ekholm. But I think we got a pretty good idea of what we're getting in the forward group this evening. RNH with Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman. Vasily Podkolzin with Leon Draisaitl and Victor Arvidsson. Then it's Brown Mark featuring Rico, Matthias Janmark with Adam Henrique and Connor Brown. Your fourth line, Perry, Philp, and Kasperi Kapanen. And then you see the 2 odd men out, Jeff Skinner. And I guess I won't say the other guy's name because Waz told me to keep it out of his mouth. We did get a look at what the pairings might look like tonight if Ekholm does in fact not play. It's Nurse with Stetcher, Kulak with Evan Bouchard. I like that. And then Ty Emberson expected to go with Josh Brown. So we can wait. It kind of feels moot because we'll find in a moment. I could ask you what you would do if Mattias Ekholm was out, but I vote we just wait for that. I like the idea of Kulak getting those minutes with Bouch. We've also seen those two play together a fair amount in spurts randomly throughout games. Sometimes Nobby flips it from time to time. I'd also argue Ekholm, if you're not feeling well, you're banged up in some degree, this is the game that I would say sit out and try and come back tomorrow against the Avalanche. But it is a little bit concerning with our boy Mattias Ekholm. Did you know, Dan, Ekholm has only ever missed 3 games since being acquired by the Edmonton Oilers. One of them was the first game of this season. One of them was the last game of last season when it didn't even matter. And then I didn't look up when the other one was, but I'm sure he wasn't feeling great. Model of consistency for this team. If he's not in, it's going to be a huge loss. I will be very concerned tomorrow against the Colorado Avalanche with some of their top talent. But Dan, Ekholm has been a Viking through and through for this team. I just mentioned he's only ever missed 3 games. Tonight, if he didn't go, would be a big loss for the squad.
Well, as a person that is aging, I do think that the reality is that this could become more of a common thing with this team, and that's why I've been tooting that horn to go and get some more defense. I think that the fact that they announced this the afternoon before a back-to-back starts, when they've called up a player out of the AHL and not sent down another player out of the AHL, tells me everything I need to know about the fact that Mattias Ekholm, I am not the source here, but Mattias Ekholm probably will not be playing tonight, will hopefully be resting up for tomorrow's game, and I hope that everybody that is on the floor at Arby's is able to pick themselves up tonight.
Yeah, I see some people in here. Good one again, Daniel. I appreciate that. Ekholm just needs to sleep it off. He's such a beast. Ekholm flu game, and that's the thing. We talked about it. No idea what's going on with Ekholm right now. The Oilers, they don't disclose any injuries, whatever. So why would they about their top defenseman in Mattias Ekholm? Keep it locked here. I'll keep waiting on Twitter or X, the everything app. I will keep refreshing there as well. But Dan, there's another guy I want to talk about. I told you to park it earlier because I think Jeff Skinner might just be fucked, dude. I don't know what's going on here. I don't even know. Not that I ever had any idea of what's going on there. So Jeff Skinner was asked to work on certain things. It was defense. Nobby wanted to see some of his confidence shining through. And it kind of looked like Skinner did work on those things. He was upgraded to the third line, then found himself with a 3-game point streak in limited ice time, 3 points in 3 games. And then the Edmonton Oilers go down 3-0 to the Pittsburgh Penguins. He gets shoved to the fourth line, only plays 8 minutes in that game. And now 3 health bombs in a row. And it's a real kick in the dick for him because Noah Philp has now been recalled from Bakersfield. You got $3 million sitting up in the press box collecting dust. And I don't know, right? If the goal right now is to kind of squeeze out Jeff Skinner and make him move his no move clause or whatever degree, then good work. But I thought the initial goal was to bring this guy in to score goals on this team. I think we're at like a 1% chance of this working out to what we thought it might be in the summertime. And sadly, I think that's going to take an injury in the top 6 for this to ever go the way that we thought it would. Dan, the fact he's getting health bombed 3 in a row and Noah Philp has been recalled, I get it. Philp is a center. He's a Derek Ryan replacement, but you got names like Perry, Kapanen, all these guys, Podzilla in the top 6. I hate having to update this after every game or every pregame, but Jeff Skinner, not looking good for him to be getting serious minutes in an Oilers jersey this season.
Well, I mean, it really is. It just comes down to an indictment on the franchise prior to Stan Bowman's arrival with this team, and not really really feels like they didn't necessarily have a conversation somewhere. I don't know if that's Jeff Jackson to coach, if that's head coach to player. I don't know where the disconnect was, but it really feels like a Nail Yakupov situation here, where we're asking a lot of a player that is not a part of his repertoire, playing third line and fourth line minutes and trying to make a square peg out of a round hole is just silly to me. So yeah, like, so if you move yourself on from the fact that Jeff Jackson made a mistake in signing him, and then that put into the motion the Dylan Holloway loss and the Oilers organization now trying to figure out a log jam on their left wing and on their right wing, but the left wing specifically, it's super disappointing all around. And for a team to not even have had an opportunity where we can say, yeah, we gave Jeff Skinner 10 games with McDavid and he could still do nothing. We haven't even answered that question yet. So it's hard as a fan to not just be angry and irrationally angry at that, because we just don't have the information. I know the chat is mentioning it, and the reality is it's probably something that we will never know the truth of until long down the road. And I've become friends with Jeff Skinner because he saw these shows where we were trying to get him back in the lineup, and he spills the beans to us on our own pre-gaming show later years down the road. It's just, I don't know. It's a really weird situation, and it's super disappointing as an Oilers fan because I had so much hope for the transaction when he came onto this team.
And this is like an argument I've seen online, but I don't know how much I'm subscribing to this theory, but that, Jeff Skinner had options this past summer. He chose to take less to come to the Edmonton Oilers to compete. And it feels like every step of the way here, they've kind of fucked him. And it's not a great look for future free agents. On the other side of that argument, I raise you Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I bet they're going to come regardless of what happens. And that's the reason Jeff Skinner himself had even come here. Only other thing I kind of got here is that feeling like it could be a point night. Watch the Edmonton Oilers power play this evening because of that wild PK looking rough. Not great numbers so far. And in their last meeting, the Oilers power play went 2 for 4 on that evening, pumping 2 past Philip Gustafsson. And yeah, that's just kind of the last one. Let's go now to our starting goaltender report, brought to you by Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. Hit the trails this winter and the waves next summer. As fellow hockey fans, the team at Power Sports and Marine are helping Oilers Nation fans gear up. They're home of an ATV for just $50 bi-weekly, or cruise the open water in a boat for $105 bi-weekly. Sherwood Power Sports and Marine are hockey fans helping hockey fans get ready for their next adventure with motorcycles, quads, e-bikes, and boats. Hit it for me, Patrick. We got the tail of the tape here between, that says Stuart Skinner. Never mind. Just give me the Philip Gustafsson right now, if you could. We see there Gustafsson. He's got incredible numbers. I mentioned tied for 12th in GAA with Calvin Pickard, but this Dan tonight is going to take heroics from Philip Gustafsson to kind of keep them in this game with this beat up back end that the Wild have. And then on the other side, Calvin Pickard, he's been solid, man. His last game was against Chicago, and it was a tale of two different halves, kind of, because the first period, Pickard, brutal. He was really, really bad. You remember that Jason Dickinson goal, goes off the end boards, pops up right next to him, not positionally sound. The word beer league goalie, the words beer league goalie had been used a lot in the chat during that one. But Dan, what does he do after that? Third period, tested big time from the Blackhawks. He makes save after save, huge ones, rebound control. And man, he dialed it in that one. And yes, the numbers aren't fantastic. Whatever. He's a backup goaltender. I say this all the time. The only number, maybe not the only number, but the main number that matters with a backup goaltender is the win category. And right now, Calvin Pickard is doubling up wins than losses, 10-4 on the season. I love my pal Cal, and this was another cherry-pick matchup between the Wild or the Avalanche. Nobby, 100% on that pick. You made the right call. But Daniel, confidence in Pickard. He looked very bad to start that game against Chicago. And then clutch gene, baby. He made all the saves he needed to make.
Well, Edmonton Oilers fans would be wise to not forget the start of this season and the fact that we didn't have to make a transaction in goaltender like we did last year, going out and finding Pickard. I mean, I know he came from our farm team, but Jack Campbell was an absolute nightmare last year, and Stuart Skinner couldn't seem to figure it out. Skinner struggled a little bit to start this season, and Pickard was everything you could ask out of a backup and more. So, you know, silly to try and throw a bad game of a backup out without being able to speak to the totality of his year. I'm 100% behind Cal Pickard. I think that he has come into this organization and just given them everything that you want out of a backup, which is just that steady hand to be able to spell your starter, who is Stuart Skinner. There's just no question marks in this organization. There's no, do we need to go get a Blackwood or a trade for a Gorgiev or whatever? It's just that conversation is done and it's over with. The goaltending position is solidified because we have a number one and a number 1B.
Yeah, and it should have been solidified last year in the NHL playoffs. When you need your backup goaltender, Calvin Pickard, he was there and stood tall for the Edmonton Oilers. Let's go now to the Minnesota lineup, brought to you by Greta Bar Yeg, because shouts out to our favorite spot in the entire city. Perfect for weekdays, perfect for weekends. Come on now, they got everything. Awesome weekly drink specials all over the place. The arcade they got is incredible. And Daniel, we're going to be heading down to Greta Bar a lot in the coming months because we've also got a little brunch for Ben action going down. The 3rd annual brunch for Ben at Greta Bar. It's the ultimate hockey day out for fans and family alike. Nice. Shout out to you, Daniel. Keep that thing on. You join us February 22nd, as Edmonton takes on Philadelphia. Dive into a morning packed with excitement, laughs, and community spirit. Kids are allowed into this bar. Doors open at 10 a.m. We will also be pre-gaming at 10 a.m., probably the earliest we've ever done that before, but we've got awesome stuff for everyone, right? We have a coloring contest for the kids. We got arcade games for just the fun. I will challenge each and every one of you at everything we can do there. We got the legendary Oilers Nation Plinko board, which was a huge hit at the last event we did at Greta. We got the raffle with prizes, all kinds of stuff. And then, as I mentioned, we're pre-gaming. We're also doing Oilers Nation After Dark right after that bad boy. But hit it for me, Pat, if you can. Let's take a look at the projected Minnesota lineup. Matt Bordzy with Marco Rossi and Matt Zuccarello. Marcus Johansson with Freddie Gaudreau and Ryan Hartman. Third line, Marcus Foligno with Joel Eriksson-Ek, the Oilers killer. Also just saw Matthias Ekholm, I do believe, is in the lineup. More on that in just a second. Yakov Trenin rounds out the third line. Former Oiler and Liam Horban's favorite, Devon Shore or Devon Score, whatever you want to say. Not even going to attempt to say the next name. Murat K is what I'll say. Ben Jones rounds out the fourth line. Then your D pairings, we looked at it. Jacob Middleton with John Merrill. Declan Chisholm with Zach Bogosian. Travis Dermott with David Juracek. Just checking right now. Shouts out to our boy Tony Brar. Says, appears Matthias Ekholm is in for the Edmonton Oilers after missing morning skate. So we still won't know what's going on with Ekholm, but I'm very, very relieved that our boy Evan Bouchard doesn't have to be on the ice with anybody else out there. He needs his watchful protector out there, if you will. But back to the Minnesota Wild, the decor. They are ravaged, but one name on there that does kind of interest me just to get a look at is David Juracek. We all know, former 6th overall pick to the Columbus Blue Jackets in 2022. He's got 1 assist in 9 games this season. He's only played, I believe, 3 with the Minnesota Wild, and in those games, averaging 13.51 time on ice with the Wild there. Still doesn't have a jersey number on Daily Faceoff, but I don't know a ton about the dude besides all the trade speculation that went down earlier this season. But I guess shout out to the Minnesota Wild because they didn't know they were going to have 3 of their big name defensemen come out. This is exactly why you bring a guy like this in to your organization, playing nice third pairing minutes. Dan, thoughts on David Juracek? A lot of people wanted him for the Edmonton Oilers. It just comes with that value of being a 6th overall pick in the draft. Thoughts on Juracek and that entire back end? We already touched on the other guys, but what about Juracek?
Well, I mean, I know genuinely absolutely nothing about it. I don't think we do enough work watching the Columbus Blue Jackets. Very much so, or even less so, is the Minnesota Wild. So I am excited to have my first ever game of watching him. I know that's not the greatest answer to give, but yeah, I mean, when a team has these kinds of injuries and you've got Travis Dermott getting 13 and 14 minutes for you, you've got some younger talent. Sorry, my goal light just went off there quickly to let me know that we're 5 minutes to game time somehow.
Let's go. Yeah, I guess we're to 6:30, as I mentioned. Puck drop not expected till 6:52. That's why we got a late little announcement for our boy Matthias Ekholm. The other big name, Pat, if you got the forward group there, you look at it, obviously they're missing Kirill Kaprizov, leading the team in points by a healthy margin. Another discussion on ONE today. I laughed. Ty called Matt Bordzy now the most underrated player in the NHL, and it seems like he's taken that crown from his teammate, Kirill Kaprizov, who used to be called the most underrated player in the NHL. But Bordzy, that dude is a stud. He's on my fantasy team. If anyone's scoring tonight, I will allow him to be the guy to do it. 16 goals, 37 points in 44 games so far this season. He had 31 and 29 in his last 2 full seasons. He scored in the Oilers' first meeting back in early November, was held pointless in the second when the Oilers whomped. Whomped is my new favorite word instead of beat down or anything. They whomped their ass 7-1. And he's got 6 points in 9 games since Kaprizov went down. So kind of still at his regular pace, but he's a guy that's going to be asked to shoulder a lot of this offensive load and has been for the past 9 games that Kaprizov has been out. He through and through is my player to watch. But as I mentioned, there's some Oiler killers out there in Joel Eriksson Ek. Daniel, if you had to pick a player to watch this evening, who would it be from the Minnesota Wild?
Well, I'm a big fan of Marcus Foligno and everything he still brings to the game. I know that it's a bit of a hockey fights pick myself, just because he is one of the few guys that does still throw down pretty consistently. But I love everything Marcus Foligno brings to the game. I don't think that he's the right addition for a team like Edmonton, but yeah, I love to see him play. Also, like Jake Middleton, I'm flabbergasted, frankly, at seeing the number of minutes that he's played in the game. Interested to see how that turns out for him now. A guy that he came along into this Minnesota organization a couple years ago when they were making all kinds of hockey fight juicy transactions where they were going out and grabbing guys that had 10 and 15 fights on the season. And then all those guys like Jake Middleton came to that team, and then everyone just stopped fighting. Nobody could fight with the team anymore because nobody wanted to fight 6 dudes in one game kind of thing. And so that experiment didn't work out. But Jake Middleton, their number 1 left defenseman tonight.
Edmonton Oilers gonna eat, dude. They gotta be licking their chops when you're saying names like that on the back end. Also laughed. I've never really seen this before. Tyler from Facebook said, "Hello. Can I get a job?" Maybe.
I was going to offer him a job. I mean, is that how that works? I think.
But dude, if it was that simple, believe me, I would have been in these chats years and years and years ago. I don't know. Okay, I don't have the pay grade or anything to be able to give out jobs like that, but we do take interns. Shout out to our boy Payton behind the scenes right now. Good luck with that one. Good luck with that one.
Shoot your shot.
We already have a Tyler at the company. Can't have a second Tyler at the company. I also saw Lance said, and this made me laugh. All right, let's get Bordzy's gambling recommendations in. What are we doing here? This is what the people want. Shout out to Bet365. They're a proud partner of Pre-Gaming with Bordzy. Open an account with them today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use that code NATION, all capitals. And look, see what you done. Now Sergeant Battle's in here. Hey, AB, can I have a job?
I heard he's on a job
for doing it. We're not just handing them out like candy, people. But hey, Sergeant Battle, also shout out to you. I saw you did your first ever podcast down at Nate TV Broadcasting. Shout out to you. I'll give it a listen. Send me a link. With the bankroll here, these are the options, Lance Kane. This is what we're going for. Arvidsson over 2.5 shots on goal. He has hit this line in 4 straight games. He has 14 shots on goal in his last 4 games. That second line has been feasting lately. And then, of course, it kind of applies to everything here. The Minnesota Wild defense has been ravaged through injury. Your second one, I'm bringing it back. I went off it for a little bit, but come on. I saw 11 0-0 there for the first place votes for Leon. So we're going 2+ points, plus 128. Leon's recorded a point in 17 of his last 18 games. He's had a multi-point night in at least 22 games this season. Minnesota wildly injured again. Look me in the eyes and tell me Leon's not getting 2 points. That's right. You can't do that. And then finally, Leon shot prop. Extra juicy. I brought it up. 2 shots on goal. Leon has hit this in 4 of his last 7. He had 5 shots on goal in the last meeting against Minnesota. I've also mentioned the Wild PK not being very good. I'm looking for Leon to be in his office, taking a couple rips from that spot. And it's a Leon night. It's a Leon game. Come on. But I tell you, I really like the Arvidsson one. Sergeant Battle, RV shot prop has made me rich. Good for RV. Good for you as well. Daniel, you look at these 3 picks. Which one do you like the most? And do you have any other Bet365 things you might be looking at this evening?
Well, my bankroll is at 0 right now, so I am waiting on a really weird prop bet that I threw out there for, I think it's Cam Talbot to be under 22 wins on the season. Go figure. So I haven't upped my totals anytime recently, but I really do like the sound of Victor Arvidsson over 2.5 goals on that line. He has just figured it out that somebody needs to shoot the darn puck when Leon is looking off golden A1 opportunities and trying to find a person to get across the slot there. So yeah, I like a lot. I like Arvidsson's shot prop a lot there.
You know what I love is when people come into this chat and have no fucking idea what they're talking about, because Josh said, little late, guys, betting closed most places. Not on Bet365, which is our sponsor. Okay, so that's how that one works. He said fail. No, that comment is a fail, but I appreciate you watching and throwing down your like. Come on, bro. Go check Bet365 before you're going to check that. Let me know in the chat if you guys have any other things you like this evening. And I believe Patrick Puff, you just said in our chat, you got some other things here for me. Hit me with the Rocket Richard odds this season. Leon Draisaitl minus 250 right now. Sam Reinhart plus 650 in second place. 4 goals behind Leon Draisaitl. It was the two of them Hyman and Sam Reinhart all season long last year. Kyle Connor in there as well. Sorry, Pat. Braden Point, Mikko Rantanen, and William Nylander. Daniel, he's got a 4-goal lead right now. What do you feel about his odds at finishing with the Rocket Richard trophy in his hands, minus 250 with a 4-goal lead?
Well, this is unselfish Leon this season, and he's still leading this scoring race, which is incredible to watch. If the guy can just take those extra few shots, as we do tend to see him do when good players get into the stretch run before the playoffs, they start to kind of hone in on what they're going to be doing in the playoffs, which is shooting that shot. So yeah, I like Leon Draisaitl here to be able to just keep crushing it and keep his lead. I don't think is going to get any less than that 4-goal that you see there.
It's kind of just been Leon's year all year, and it's got to be again. I mentioned 11 first place votes from 11 separate professional hockey writers. But the point you made, Dan, halfway point of the season, that actually doesn't matter at all. Final thing before we head out, I see it's 6:33. Puck drop is 6:52, so we'll get out of here. I can pour myself a nice drink. Kind of have to pee as well. But Daniel, final one I got for you. Give me a score prediction and an anytime goal scorer from the Edmonton Oilers this evening.
Score prediction for tonight's game. I thought it was going to be a close one on Oilers Nation Radio, but I think that now that I've had some time to think about it, seeing that Matthias Ekholm is in the lineup, just like I said earlier in the show, please don't play it back to find out that I didn't. But yes, my score prediction is going to be 4-1 for the Edmonton Oilers. And my anytime goal scorer, I'm going to go with Corey Perry.
Ooh, I like that one. I wonder what those odds are on Bet365 tonight for me. Did you give the score prediction? What was it?
4-1, Edmonton Oilers.
4-1. I think I'm going to say 5-2 for the Edmonton Oilers. Calvin Pickard, just be nice and reasonable, allow 2 goals, hopefully above 900 save percentage. And then for the anytime goal, it's Leon Draisaitl, man. More often than not, he's scoring goals in these hockey games, so he's a guy I like. Also had a 4-point night the last time the Edmonton Oilers played against the Minnesota Wild. Final one I want to do here, we'll do 2 ad reads here. Big shouts out to our pals from Odd Company for the Nation Beer Everyday Lager. Perfect for game day, perfect for every day. Pick a couple of these boys up at their 2 Edmonton locations or liquorconnect.com. And then, Daniel, we've also got another fun trip planned in the beginning of April, end of March, actually, technically, because March 30th to April 2nd, we're going on the Nation vacation. Head to nationgear.ca for more details. This one's going to be incredible. The Pacific Division standings will be on the line for this game. Final meeting between the Oilers and the Golden Knights. We'll be staying on Fremont Street to swim. We got all kinds of cool stuff planned. Obviously, we're going to the Oilers Knights game, and we'll be watching from the Stella Artois Lounge. Super bougie. Can't wait to stick out like a sore thumb in there. You can head to nationgear.ca for more deets. We've got flight options, which handles absolutely everything for you. Shout out to our girl Kennedy. And then we've got non-flight options as well, where if you want to use airline points, maybe you don't live in Edmonton, but you just want to come hang out and party with the crew, we can make that happen for you. Daniel, are you going to come on this one with me?
Unfortunately, I will not be there. That is my wife's birthday week, and then weekend we're having a big party for her big 40th birthday. So I will not be there. But if anybody is heading down to Las Vegas, as you saw in our promotional video, and they still won't let me record any more of the tips, I have thousands of tips for any Vegas goers. I have been there over 20 times in my life, all starting when I was like 8 years old. So I love the city. It's a great time, and Kennedy and the crew have been able to put together something special here. Staying on Fremont Street is just a little bit different, and it's something that actually I've never experienced before. I've only ever heard great things about, and I think that being able to be down on Fremont Street around midnight, 1 a.m., and not having to like think about getting back to the strip and the commute and the grind that it is to try and get there. Nothing good ever happens in Vegas unless you're downtown right next to your hotel anyways, and you can just tuck away if something bad happens there to you.
I'm super excited. I've never stayed on Fremont, but I've partied on Fremont Street before. And let me tell you, it is an absolute blast. We're going to have a good time. And shouts out to all of you for tuning in. We also had some trolls in here. We got some good stuff today. Somebody called me a douchebag for pushing gambling sites. I don't know if you've ever watched Sportsnet, dude. They also push gambling sites, so you're kind of just gonna have to get used to that. But I love you all. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Dan and Patrick Puff behind the scenes. Pat, it's okay to misspell. You make so many graphics every day. Pat is our graphic wizard. It blows my mind when I look at the stuff in the morning and I'm like, were you up at 4 a.m. doing all this stuff? Pat, we love you and we appreciate you. Thanks for the extra ones as well. Dan, I love you, and I love all of our sponsors. Sherwood Ford the Giant, Sherwood Power Sports and Marine, Greta Bar Yag, Bet365, Willock Beef Jerky, Odd Company, Come On the Nation Vacation, and I do believe that is it. You still got 10 or so minutes before they're going to eventually drop this puck. I apologize. I really got to pee. This is running through me right now. We'll be live right here on the ON YouTube after the game. Me, Dan, breaking down what we hope is an Edmonton Oilers W. So as our boy Bo says in here, go Oil, go. Go Web, go. That's also a Spider-Man reference. I got it, Bo. I love you all. Peace out. We'll talk after the game.